Well, blow me down.
Yes, blow me down indeed, because tonight we're going to be talking about Popeye. Popeye in film and also Popeye the movie from 1980.
Do you know that this week marks the 85th...
Actually, it would have been last week.
Well,
Yes.
this month
This month marks
the 85th anniversary of Popeye.
Yeah, you know, when I was a kid, and I guess it would have had to have been the 50th anniversary of Popeye, there was a book by Bud Sagendorf, who took over for E.C. Segar, who created the character. And I think it was just 50 years of Popeye. And it was one of the best books in the world. I mean, it reprinted all these old strips. It told the whole story about the cartoons. And I wish I still had it. I have no idea where the hell it went. But anyway, we're getting off on a bizarre tangent. Popeye the Sailor, what a strange character to make a lead. And he wasn't the lead character initially when Cigar created the
Who
script.
was?
Well, it was called Thimble Theater.
Thimble Theater,
And it was the Oil family. It was Olive
Oh.
and her brother Castor Oil.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Giesel, the guy who ran the cart with all the goods, and then they had to go somewhere. I think they were after the Goon Island, looking for Alice the Goon or something.
Which, of course, was the basis for the Goon Show.
Yeah, and the word goon in general comes from that. It was coined in Thimble Theater.
That's
and
fascinating.
So they get Popeye. He's a sailor, and Olive Oil has no use for him immediately. And they fall in love pretty quickly, but Popeye's popularity, you try saying that 3 times fast, is so great that he takes over the strip.
Oh, that's
And
fascinating.
it becomes Thimble Theater starring Popeye to just Popeye.
So it was originally just the Oil family.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wow.
It was a little, domestic kind of like family circus.
And-
Popeye shows up.
And, it's interesting because, like the Oil family, you have Olive Oil, very, very thin woman.
Yes.
Stick thin in her family. And there's also there's Baby Oil.
Yeah,
There's,
I think she had like a little sister or something.
and Baby Oil.
There must
What
have
was
been.
his name?
There's, I guess, Motor Oil was the father.
No, but anyway,
Crude Oil was their cousin from the
he's-
backwoods they didn't talk to.
the character of Popeye, I'm curious what he was
Such a
thinking
funny
when he
joke.
created. You know,
Well, here's the thing, and we'll get into this in just a second, but it's a popular comic strip. Of course, they make it into a cartoon. The Fleischer Studios, Max Fleischer with his brother Dave Fleischer. Dave Fleischer is really the guy who controlled everything and managed all the Popeye stuff. Popeye makes an appearance in a Betty Boop cartoon. People are thrilled to see Popeye. Popeye's owned by King Features Syndicate. So they make a whole string of Popeye cartoons, black and white. They're fantastic.
the Popeye cartoons are kind of, they're one note, but they're also kind of sad because something horrible is happening to Olive Oil. She's being tormented by Bluto.
Yes, or Brutus, depending on which name they're going with.
Oh, they went through 2 names, Brutus and Bluto.
Went back and forth.
Then the Goon character kind of scared me.
Right, but here and then Sweet Pea, of course.
And Sweet
came in.
Pea,
they find a child,
not Baby Oil. I don't know what I
Right.
was thinking, but
So-
Sweet Pea. They
but-
find a child.
Right.
But each episode is like, oh, Popeye, like
Right.
as she's being like,
Mae Questel, the great Mae Questel, who was also the voice of Betty Boop.
oh, really?
Yeah.
As she's being like tied to the. I never understood this Bluto Brutus relationship because he loves her, but then he's always trying to kill her.
He not that he really loves her. I think he just didn't like the fact that she was into Popeye.
So he's
I
trying to
think
ruin
it's
that.
It's really all about
It's
the
a Greek
tension between Popeye and
It's a Greek
yes.
tragedy.
It's almost like they're brothers. You know?
Popeye is a Greek tragedy.
The
because-
first voice for the character was a novelty artist. I think his name was Red Pepper Sam, if I'm not mistaken.
There's
And
a name.
Yeah, and he did these comedy records where he spoke in that kind of voice. And he apparently was very difficult to work with. There was an animator by the name of Jack Mercer who worked at the Fleischer Studios, and he did a note-perfect imitation of this guy. So eventually they got rid of Red Pepper Sam. They hired Jack Mercer to do it. And Jack Mercer stayed through like the early 90s. Right up until the
serious?
time. Yeah, from like the 30s to the 90s.
Oh, my God.
And his contribution to Popeye, the cartoons, was the mumbling, which didn't happen. Red Pepper Sam never did that. Jack Mercer did that. So they do these wonderful black and white cartoons. They do some long, not feature length, but they did Popeye meets Sinbad the Sailor,
Yeah.
Popeye and Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. Wonderful color cartoons. And then Fleischer Studios are bought out by Paramount. It's wartime now, so Popeye's outfit changes. Now he's in the white sailor suit. And it's all military for the most part. He and Bluto are both in the Navy, and it has a wartime theme. Then it goes to King Features has their own animation unit. Then you get very limited TV animation.
Yeah.
So that stuff is, same voice cast, but it's just not that great. And then eventually, in the 80s, there was Popeye and Friends on CBS.
Yeah.
Then eventually there was Popeye and Son.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you remember that.
Well, because wait a minute. Popeye's father.
Poop Deck Pappy.
Poop Deck
Right, of course.
Pappy. You really know a lot about Popeye.
I was a Popeye fanatic when I was
watched
a little
the
kid.
cartoon all the time. I loved it. I sort of always I was very close to Wimpy.
Wimpy was the character you identified with?
I identified with Wimpy.
I don't think of you as a moocher, though. And that's what Wimpy is.
I know, but Wimpy was such a pacifist.
Yeah, he totally was. Wimpy was a pacifist. Here's my and I should say that now Billy West, whenever they bring back Popeye, which is not too often, Billy West does the voice. Another reason for me to hate this guy, because he's also the voice of Bugs Bunny. That's being greedy, you know. Here's my question about Popeye.
Yeah.
So as you say, he has to eat the spinach to fight. What happens in the cartoon is that Bluto/Brutus beats him to a pulp, to the point where he's near death.
Then they always get the can.
And then he pulls the can out of his shirt, and he squeezes it, eats it. Here's my question. If he's had the can on him the entire time, why go through that? Popeye could just very easily, before the fight even starts, crack open the can, eat the spinach, and beat the crap out of Bluto, and then we wouldn't have a cartoon.
But we have to have tension. Or he could just use the can like brass knuckles and just... and what's funny, first two things they never mention in these things is all Popeye, I'm strong to the finish because I eat my
Right,
spinach.
of course.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I was eating a lot of spinach and the problem is the spinach has so much protein. I got kidney stones. Popeye never got kidney stones. So I think that but what's so interesting was that
Too much information.
Popeye was is such a great character that he even he spawned the Popeye spinach. Remember the spinach can?
Of course I do. I ate that spinach.
I love
told
that
my mother
spinach.
I didn't like spinach, but I would eat that because I had Popeye's face on it.
But I had to cook it because I wasn't going to eat it raw.
What a strange character. For a cartoon character, usually cartoon characters are cute.
Yeah,
this
he's
is
not
an
a
old
cute-
man.
He's
He's got a butt for a chin.
and he has the
There's
tattoo.
probably- he's got a tattoo. He's a strong guy, and yet his muscles are in his forearms and not his biceps. Unlike anybody in human history.
Now,
1980.
Now, 1980 is an interesting year because, first of all, Robert Altman is having the 70s are phenomenal for Altman.
Of course.
Starting, aside from MASH in Nashville, he's just doing a lot of great indie films.
Right.
With
And they're all like these grand ensemble pieces.
Yeah, I mean, Academy Awards.
Yeah.
But deep down, Robert Altman adores Popeye. He grew up on the comics. He loves it more than anything. And he gets the opportunity
To make Popeye the movie.
and he teams up with Robin Williams, who is a great casting idea.
Yeah, you know what? And I now I look upon Robin Williams, and I don't personally find him funny these days. However, there was really no one else you could get in 1980 to pull that off. And I think he was great in it.
I thought he was perfect. I thought
And
Shelley
Duvall.
was
I mean, that's
phenomenal.
Inspired casting. She is.
She-
That's
she
like
is-
Jack Nicholson as the Joker in the Batman movie. It was perfect. She was born to play that role.
She was great. Paul
Dooley.
as
Wimpy.
Wimpy is great. I also believe it or not, I interviewed actor Donovan Scott, who played Castor Oil.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, her brother. Sure.
He played her brother. He also he played George Hamilton's sidekick in Czar with the Gay Blade.
Right. Wasn't the actor who played Bluto, wasn't he British?
No.
No?
What was his name?
I forget his name. It's going to drive me crazy.
This is killing me. He was in a lot of movies, did a lot of spaghetti westerns. He, of course, played the evil Turkish prison guard in Midnight Express.
Really?
And then he
I'm
was in the
glad
movie.
that didn't translate over. Into
Then he was in the
Popeye
movie Dune. He played like the evil
yeah?
character. He played the big Paul
I forget his name.
something. Anyway,
But here's the thing: it's a perfect Robert Altman movie because you do have a cast of eccentric characters,
it's perfect.
and it all took place on the Sweet Haven, the island of Sweet
Sweet
Haven, which
Ha-
I don't think was in the comic strip. I don't think they named the Popeye's island. But
Sweet, and it's a musical.
yes, it was a musical, and it was shot in Malta. Why I remember this, I don't know. I'm not looking at anything here, folks. But there were books that came out, like The Making of Popeye, because they thought this was going to be a huge hit. So I got the paperback book about the novelization and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, they shot it in Malta. They were there for like maybe 4 months or so. And of course, as Poop Deck Pappy, It's the guy's name,
Ray
Walston.
Ray Walston,
As
who's
Poop Deck Pappy,
phenomenal.
who's perfect casting.
Great. Everyone in that film was. And also, what's interesting is the fact that because Altman lived in San Francisco,
Right.
and one of a very famous circus troupe, which is no longer around, called the Pickle Family Circus, was like the big one there. He loved them, and he's like, "Well, I need this. I want physical comedy shtick."
Yes.
That include a young Bill Irwin.
Bill Irwin,
Bill Irwin.
kicking his hat down the street.
The funny thing about that was that Bill Irwin said his paycheck bounced.
Much like his hat. I saw this movie in 1980 at least 3 times.
Okay, let me tell you something.
I loved this movie in 1980, and it's a musical. Harry Nilsson, the great Harry Nilsson, friend of John Lennon, a great artist on his own, Harry Nilsson, did the music. He's large.
He's like,
large.
My favorite is Bluto.
Yeah. And remember, and Popeye's song, I am what I am. I'm Popeye, the sailor. Listen,
I never tell a lie.
that song filled me with inspiration. I felt like I could conquer anything listening to that song.
Remember how? Also, by the way, what's Sweet Pea? That's Robert Altman's grandchild. And remember how the baby the whistles?
Yes,
and,
he would whistle.
She was the
Right.
horse.
He was like R2-D2, that kid.
He chose the horse, and they take Sweet Pea for
they were gambling.
Scammolians. That's how they call money. And there's the prostitutes sitting around, and you see he's
What is this?
Right.
and.
Listen, and of course the big fight at the end with the octopus.
Oh, and then he turns
he
yellow.
punches Yes, Bluto turns yellow. Literally.
We got HBO at this time. And in 1981, it was on HBO. I sat in front of that television every day. Literally, there could be a fire in the house. I would not recognize it. I remember once sitting there watching it, and my brother and sisters all left the room, and they went to go swim. I didn't even know where they were because I was just transfixed by that movie. I watched it so many times.
Yeah. Listen, in my world, that was a huge hit.
Now, how did it do in the box office?
I don't think it did well. And people, over time, the reputation of that movie is such that people think of it as this colossal disaster. People, they snicker at it. And eventually it was released on DVD. And I remember when it came out on DVD, people were saying, oh, why did they put this out? This abomination.
Why not?
And I'm thinking, it was a wonderful kids movie. I enjoyed it. Look, in my world, it was a hit.
I loved it. I was taken by it. Of course, I think it probably won a few Razzie Awards.
I'm sure it did. And, of course, there was never going to be a sequel to that.
Yeah.
Because, Robin Williams wouldn't come back and do that.
Yeah, that was a real shame. My favorite, there was a little episode once on Mork and Mindy. I think we talked about this where, the opening episode, he comes in with these children. He's like, and if you're good next week, I'll take you to go see Popeye again.
Ah, little intro. What I remember about that was he had to cut his hair, Mork. Remember Mork had long hair?
Oh, yeah.
And I knew that he was filming Popeye at the time because he had short hair.
Oh, that's fascinating.
And I used to watch that going, yes, he's filming Popeye. I was so excited. Listen, I bought the books. I bought the magazine. I had the record album. I used to listen to it over and over. Sweet Haven. I was completely into it.
In the late 80s, Popeye sort of gets a kind of resurrection on the show Full House with Dave Coulier.
Yeah, he starts doing the Popeye. By the way, Dave Coulier has to be ticked off at Billy West. Dave Coulier made a side career out of auditioning for Popeye on that show.
But wait a minute,
he did do it though in some cartoons.
He might have, but wait a minute, we only spoke about one of the items. We didn't talk about Popeye's chicken.
Yes, Popeye's chicken, who now I think are seeking to distance themselves from the Popeye character, if you can believe that. First of all, it doesn't make any sense. Popeyes should be a seafood place.
It really should.
That makes sense. Popeye's a sailor.
But they make
good
biscuits.
What is a sailor doing with chicken?
They make good biscuits.
They do, but you never thought of Popeye making biscuits.
Let me go out back. I got some chickens out there.
When I was in kindergarten,
I'll squeeze the necks there and kill them.
I was in kindergarten when the movie came out, and I remember one of the kids in my class, Michael. I went to a Halloween party,
right?
And it was great. He was Popeye, and his mother did pantyhose, and she put as the muscles for the arms on his arm. It was great.
It was wonderful. So we're giving this a good review.
Yeah,
is what we're saying.
Well, because we're celebrating Popeye. I did not know you loved Popeye so much.
I'm a Popeye goon. To put it in the vernacular.
We need to talk about the Goon for a whole. I don't understand the Goon.
Alice the Goon?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Goon Island, and there's a bunch of
She kind of
goons.
broke my heart also.
Well, she was in love with Popeye for a little while.
All right.
She thought that Popeye was her baby, and she was rocking him.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that was in a comic strip or a cartoon. Anyway, Popeye the movie, it's not as bad as you thought. In fact, it's quite good. Check it out and see some old cartoons.
And happy anniversary, Popeye, 85 years.